Thousands of UFO encounters have occurred all around the world. Some witnesses benefited from their sightings, while others faced severe repercussions. Dale Spaur, an Ohio police officer, chased a UFO for about 138 kilometers, and the repercussions changed his life forever. Skeptics pressed Spaur to accept it was only an atmospheric anomaly, but he refused and was adamant in his statements about what he saw. Dale Spaur served as a gunner on a B-51 bomber during the Korean War before becoming a deputy sheriff in Portage County, Ohio. Spaur's life changed forever on April the 17th, 1966 at around 5 a.m. During their night shift, Spaur and his colleague Wilbur Neff were called to an abandoned truck near the town of Atwater. When they got out of their police cruiser to investigate, Spaur noticed a huge luminous object. The object was barely 150 feet above them and was around 40 feet wide. He witnessed a gigantic saucer-shaped UFO soar from the ground to the trees, illuminating the streets below. Spaur said, "I always look behind me to make sure no one is approaching from behind, and then I noticed this object in the wooded area behind us. It was rising at this point, to around treetop level. It began to move towards us. I looked at my partner Neff as it passed through the woods, and he was still staring at the craft, transfixed. The object kept becoming brighter and brighter. He just stood there for a minute with his mouth wide open. As dazzling as it was, we had to look down. As I started looking down, I looked at my hands and my clothes, which were so brightly lit up that it seemed we were wearing white clothing. The only sound in the entire area was a hum, like a transformer getting loaded, or some sort of generator of some kind." Spaur said, "I was anxious and my heart began to beat really fast. I looked at my partner and he was pale in the face. We both nodded at each other, and a moment later we ran back to our police vehicle in order to find some level of security and to put something between us and the unknown craft." They watched the UFO fly to the east and come to a standstill. Spaur, alarmed, still unable to come to a conclusion of what the object was, contacted the radio operator at the police station and informed the sergeant on duty. He reported hearing a humming sound from the craft, and the sergeant instantly gave them the command to track the UFO. As the first rays of dawnlight struck the sky, the object began to soar. An additional officer on duty, Wayne Houston, had been listening to the radio broadcasts and was fortunate to be present at the location where Spaur and Neff would pass. Houston joined the chase, and soon he noticed the UFO being pursued by two officers in a cruiser. For what seemed like hours, Spaur followed the object as it slowly hovered through the sky. The object seemed to rotate and spin, and Spaur was just about able to make out the metallic surface of the unknown craft. The prolonged chase was about to come to an end when Spaur's cruiser ran out of gas and he had to pull over to fill it up. At this point, the sighting piqued the interest of 4 other officers who were listening in on their radios. Spaur caught back up with the object and heard on the radio that fighter jets were on their way to pursue the UFO. It seemed that the strange object knew of the imminent arrival of the fighter jets, and just before they arrived, the UFO shot straight up into the sky and moved with a speed which none of the police officers had ever witnessed from any aircraft. Spaur dealt with multiple reporters shortly after this episode, and his story quickly became viral in newspapers. Despite the presence of many other police officers, it was Spaur who suffered a mental collapse as he continued to retell his story over and over again, while the other police officers refused to talk about it further. The US Air Force's UFO research program, Project Blue Book, took the initiative to look into Spaur's case. Lieutenant Colonel Hector Quintanilla led Project Blue Book at the time. He was stationed at Dayton Wright-Patterson Air Force Base between 1965 and 1967. He had at least 3 UFO sightings per day. Spaur's case was just a typical sighting for him, but he was under a lot of pressure from the media and UFO enthusiasts. Hector suspected the police officers had witnessed a mirage. He investigated traffic and astronomical records from that day and discovered 3 satellites and the planet Venus in the sky when Spaur and the other policemen spotted the UFO. Later, in his report, he concluded the matter by stating that Spaur chased a satellite and Venus. Spaur understood the difference clearly between a satellite and an enormous metallic ship drifting through the sky. Spaur had a lot of backlash as he kept true to his story and was certain that what he saw wasn't a mere satellite. Despite immense pressure from his friends and family, Spaur kept true to his story and was adamant of what he witnessed. His mental breakdown was prompted by his constant interaction with the media and pressure from skeptics and his superiors at work. His life was anything but perfect a few months following his encounter, and Dale was never the same after that. Eventually, he lost his career, his partner left him, and his friends deserted him as they assumed he was crazy. Spaur was a shattered man. He relocated to West Virginia and began working at a local coal mine. He lived a horrible existence there after falling from a height of 70 feet and breaking his back. For several days he was in a coma. Spaur's son, James, stated that Dale still kept to his story and it didn't change over the years, despite all the pressure from the general public. He also went on to say that he wasn't 100% sure of what his father saw that night and can neither confirm or deny with exacting certainty what it was. His best assumption is that his father and the others witnessed a top-secret experimental military aircraft, and perhaps Quintanilla and the others from the military airbase knew exactly what he was talking about, but couldn't say anything without exposing a huge military secret. And again, perhaps he had to say it was a satellite and Venus in order to undermine Spaur. This case could have been a sighting of a top-secret military aircraft, or it could have been something from another planet altogether. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this UFO encounter story, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.